has a new target as of nearly 2 hours ago now, midnight in Washington, 9:30 a.m. in Delhi. Most Indian goods imported into the US face a 50% tariff.
Despite this, Trump defended steep tariffs imposed on New Delhi over its continued purchase of Russian oil. Washington has doubled duties on Indian goods to 50%.
Trump is very unpredictable. He's very changeable. You don't know what he may say depending on the mood of the moment. He himself said that I operate on the basis of intuition and not process.
Imagine waking up one morning to headlines splashed across every screen. Europe has just rejected US tariffs tied to India, and Donald Trump is fuming, his anger spilling over into public outbursts. This isn't just another trade dispute. This is a geopolitical earthquake. It's a shockwave shaking Washington, rattling Wall Street, and raising questions about the very future of America's role in the global economy. And at the center of it all, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, a leader whose strategic brilliance has outmaneuvered Washington and left Trump scrambling for answers. Welcome to the world where trade wars are no longer just about economics. They are about power, survival, and global leadership. Before we dive into the full story, don't forget to subscribe to Traveling Vibes, where we bring you the stories others are too afraid to explain. Your voice matters, so drop a comment below and tell us what you think, because the best one, we'll pin it for the world to see. Why is Trump so furious? Why has Europe turned its back on US tariffs tied to India? And what exactly was Modi's genius move that left even seasoned diplomats stunned? To understand this, we need to step back and look at the bigger picture. The US and India have always had a complicated relationship, one defined by both cooperation and friction. Washington has relied on India as a counterweight to China, but at the same time, it has slapped tariffs on Indian exports, particularly in high-value sectors like technology, agriculture, and diamonds. Trump, obsessed with bringing manufacturing back to America, saw India as another target. But here's the twist. India didn't just push back, it turned the tables. Modi recognized that tariffs are not just numbers on paper, they are weapons in a global chess game. While the Trump administration was trying to punish Indian goods, Modi was busy forging ties with Europe, building trade bridges that would leave Washington isolated. His government offered Europe what the US couldn't: stability, reliability, and access to a massive growing market without the chaos of unpredictable tariffs. The result? Europe quietly began shifting its alliances, rejecting America's tariffs and deepening ties with India. For Trump, this was not just an economic blow, it was a personal humiliation. The man who promised to make America respected again was now watching allies slip away. And his reaction? Explosive. Behind closed doors, sources say Trump lashed out at advisors, demanding to know how India had managed to pull off what he could not. Publicly, he raged about unfair treatment, accusing India of manipulating global trade. But the reality is far more painful for Washington. Modi's move wasn't just smart, it was surgical. He positioned India as the indispensable partner for Europe at a time when US tariffs were driving industries into uncertainty. Now let's talk about the economic fallout, because this is where the story hits home for Americans. Every tariff carries a price, and the price is almost always paid by consumers and workers. Trump's tariffs on Indian goods triggered retaliatory measures from India, making American exports more expensive. Farmers in Iowa, already battered by the China trade war, suddenly found their soybean shipments dwindling even further. Small businesses that relied on affordable Indian textiles or technology imports watched their costs skyrocket. Families going shopping noticed subtle but painful price increases on everything from clothes to electronics. What was sold as a strategy to protect American jobs turned into a policy that destroyed them. Europe's rejection only made things worse. By siding with India, European leaders sent a clear message. The US could no longer dictate the terms of global trade. This weakened America's negotiating position and emboldened other countries to follow suit. Canada, watching from the sidelines, saw an opportunity. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau aligned Canada's strategy with India's, offering Europe and Asia an alternative to American markets. Suddenly, Canada wasn't just America's northern neighbor. It was a rival, ready to capitalize on every mistake Washington made. This brings us to one of the most overlooked aspects of this story: security and alliances. Trade isn't just about money, it's about trust. When allies like Europe and Canada turn toward India, it signals more than economic cooperation. It hints at a shift in global power. one that could redefine military alliances and strategic partnerships. The US has long counted on NATO and other allies to follow its lead. But if trade disputes continue to fracture these relationships, what happens when a real crisis emerges? Will Europe stand by Washington, or will it hedge its bets with India, a country increasingly seen as a stabilizing force in Asia? For Americans, the personal impact is undeniable. Picture a worker in Michigan who once assembled car parts exported to Europe. Now those orders are gone, shifted to India. Imagine a farmer in the Midwest who counted on exports of agricultural products, now watching silos fill with unsold goods. Think of consumers across the country paying higher prices on everyday items, all because of tariffs that backfired. This isn't an abstract policy debate. It's a crisis playing out in living rooms, grocery stores, and workplaces across the nation. And yet, Modi's genius move wasn't just about short-term wins. It was about long-term positioning. India has always been seen as a rising power, but this moment solidified it as a global leader. By outsmarting Washington and winning Europe's trust, Modi effectively positioned India as a hub for global trade, technology, and investment. This has ripple effects across the world. Countries in Africa, Southeast Asia, and even Latin America are now looking to India as an alternative to both China and the US. The global trade realignment is no longer a future possibility. It is happening right now, before our eyes. But let's not ignore Canada's role, because Trudeau's strategy deserves attention. Canada has always walked a fine line between aligning with the US and carving out its own path. With Trump's unpredictable tariffs pushing Europe away, Canada stepped in as a reliable partner. Offering stability, natural resources, and strong governance, Canada partnered with India to create new opportunities. Together, they created a counterweight to US dominance, one that Washington never saw coming. For Americans, this means their own neighbor is no longer just a friend. It is also a competitor taking jobs, contracts, and investments that once flowed south of the border. Now, let's step back and ask the big questions. What does this mean for the future of America? Can a country that once led the global economy afford to alienate allies and underestimate rivals? Can tariffs alone rebuild American industries, or do they simply accelerate the rise of others? These are not just economic questions. They are ethical ones. Because at the heart of this story lies a simple truth. Leadership is about more than power. It is about vision, trust, and the ability to unite rather than divide. Trump's anger may dominate the headlines, but the real story is about a changing world. Modi's genius wasn't in simply outmaneuvering Washington. It was in proving that America's dominance is not inevitable, that nations can rise, alliances can shift, and the balance of power can change. For Americans, this is both a warning and an opportunity. A warning that isolation and tariffs carry consequences. An opportunity to rethink what leadership means in the 21st century. But before we close, let's take this discussion one step further. Because the story of Trump, Modi, and Europe is not just about trade, not just about tariffs, and not even just about who outsmarted whom. It's about the future of how Americans live, work, and compete in a global economy that is no longer controlled by a single superpower. Think about this. For decades, the United States was the center of gravity. If Washington sneezed, the world caught a cold. But now, that narrative is being rewritten. When Europe chose India over US tariffs, it wasn't simply about short-term profits. It was about reliability. It was about choosing a partner they could trust to deliver without sudden policy shocks or erratic tariff threats. And Americans watching this unfold must ask themselves, are we becoming the unstable partner others want to avoid? The cause and effect here is clear. Trump believed tariffs would protect American workers. Instead, they alienated allies, emboldened competitors, and drove businesses into the arms of other nations. And when Europe turned toward India, it didn't just hurt Washington's pride, it damaged real American livelihoods. For every job lost in manufacturing, for every farm contract canceled, for every small business forced to pay higher prices, there is a story of an American family paying the price for a global chess game. But there's also an emotional hook here that can't be ignored. Modi's strategy resonates not only because it was clever, but because it tapped into something deeper: the desire of countries to feel respected and valued. Europe was tired of being strong-armed by Washington. Canada was tired of being underestimated. And India was ready to step in with open arms, offering partnership instead of punishment. That emotional dimension, respect versus humiliation, may very well define the alliances of the next century. So where does that leave Americans today? On one hand, you feel the immediate pain. Higher prices at the store, fewer opportunities at work, uncertainty in industries that once seemed secure. On the other hand, you face a crossroads. Do you demand leaders who build bridges or leaders who build walls? Do you reward policies that unite allies or ones that divide them? These are not abstract questions. They are questions that will shape your paycheck, your community, and your children's future. Now let's zoom out for a moment to the global perspective. As the US stumbles under the weight of its own tariff policies, others are moving fast. India is rising, Canada is realigning, and Europe is signaling that it no longer accepts Washington's dominance. Even China, lurking in the background, benefits when America alienates its allies. This isn't just about losing one trade deal. It's about losing influence in a world where power is shifting eastward and northward. And here's the moral question we all need to ask. Should economic power be used as a weapon or as a tool for cooperation? When tariffs are used like sledgehammers, they may win applause in the short term, but in the long term, they erode trust. America's challenge now is not just to regain lost jobs or trade deals. It is to rebuild credibility. Without it, no tariff, no threat, no promise can restore its standing. Trump's anger may dominate the headlines, but the real story is this. Americans deserve better than policies that isolate them. They deserve strategies that lift them up in a competitive world, not ones that leave them struggling while rivals thrive. And this is where your voice comes in. Subscribe to Traveling Vibes right now, because we'll continue bringing you the stories that matter, the ones mainstream media won't break down. And don't just watch, join the conversation. Drop a comment below. Do you think tariffs protect America, or do they hurt it? Do you think Modi's strategy was genius, or do you think Trump's approach could still work if refined? The best comment, as always, we'll pin at the top, because your voice deserves to lead this discussion. As we close, remember this. Every tariff, every trade war, every deal struck or broken, it's not just politics. It's about people. It's about you. And the decisions being made today will decide who thrives tomorrow. The world is shifting. Power is moving. And America must decide whether to lead with trust or be left behind. So don't forget, hit that subscribe button, tap the bell so you never miss an update, and share this video with friends who need to understand just how big these changes are. The world is watching. History is being written. And together, by asking the right questions and demanding the right answers, we can shape the next chapter. Thank you for watching Traveling Vibes. Until next time, stay informed, stay strong, and never stop questioning.